the vault. High atop the pastoral center of the Diocese of Camden, you're listening to Talking Catholic.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Talking Catholic. This is Marianela Nunez, and I am so excited with this podcast today. We have a little bit of a different scenario because our beloved Mike Walsh, Director of Communication for the Diocese, has, left the microphone away, and we are introducing for the first time my new co-host and also colleague for the Office of Catholic Schools, Mike Bress. Hey, Mike.
How you doing, Marianela?
I am so well. Welcome to the Talking Catholic podcast for the first time. Are you excited?
I am very excited. I'm a big podcast fan, so especially Talking Catholic. So I'm excited to be on this side of the device, so to speak.
Not only did you get to co-host today, but you also got to kind of get the all the equipment to manage and the timer, everything else we have. Like, you look kind of cool.
This is the most equipment I've ever dealt with. So as long as I don't touch any buttons and we just talk into the microphone, I think we'll be okay.
I think we will. Mike, can you tell our listeners what do you do for the diocese and what's your role?
Sure. I am the Marketing and Communications Manager for the Office of Catholic Education, as we call it on the social medias, South Jersey Catholic Schools. So I do everything to try to help promote Catholic schools in South Jersey through social media. Sometimes we, do radio, internet, everything, the website. So that's my role. And a big part of my role that I really have a good time with is actually helping the schools with their own marketing, promoting themselves, how they do it, what kind of tips they need, best practices. So I have a lot of fun visiting the schools, going to events, helping them figure out how to best put themselves in the best light.
That's pretty cool. I think, it's a wonderful thing for me to work with you, and I'm excited to share this podcast today. So we have a very interesting conversation and a lot of people on the table. So I think we're not going to take a lot of time to just chit chat because we have good content to give you people. So we're going to introduce who we have on the table, and we're going to let them do it by themselves. So we start here with this wonderful lady here. Who are you and who's in the podcast today?
I'm great. My name is Sister Rose DiFluri. I'm the Assistant Superintendent in the Catholic Schools Office, and I've been in my position here at the Diocese and in the Catholic Schools Office for 27 years.
Wow. Welcome. Welcome to the podcast one more time. You've been with us before, so
yes,
it's wonderful to have you again. And following, we have...
Hi, I'm Bobby Lockwood. I'm Director of Curriculum and Assessment for the Catholic Schools Office, and this is my second year.
Welcome to the podcast again, Bobby. I'm sure it's going to be an exciting conversation, so please talk a lot.
Usually I don't get complaints about that.
All right. And who do we have next?
Hello, I'm Bill Watson. I am the Superintendent of Catholic Schools and the Secretary of Catholic Education, and I've been with the Diocese for 9 years in this office, and I'm entering my 4th year as Superintendent.
Welcome back, Bill. I know you were one of those voices that our podcast listeners really love and know, and it's always exciting to have you back and get you to share the good news about Catholic education in the diocese.
Well, it's great to be here, and we're all of us, all of 5 people around the table, I think, really excited about Catholic schools in general. We wouldn't be here if we weren't, but I think excited about this year in particular ways too. So it's a good time to be talking.
That's awesome. And for these podcast listeners, I feel like, I am home. I'm with, my colleagues, and it's kind of like a staff meeting a little bit because we're going to be talking Catholic schools, and this is all we do all day long. So
this seems to be the easiest conversation I think we'll have today. In terms of we know exactly what we're talking about and can do it in a free space. So it's going to be a fun time.
Exactly. So just to get started with the conversation, we would like to hear, how do you feel in terms of being prepared for the year? Like I would ask Dr. Watson, Bill, how do we feel about getting started for this academic year?
Yeah, I think I feel great about it. But then again, I have 5 kids at home, ages 7 to 13.
Parents are celebrating at this time of the year.
I wish school started last week. It's funny, kids, they and adults, I think, to some extent, just long for structure and in certain ways. And of course, Catholic schools, all schools are have some structure to them. They're routine, but Catholic schools in particular are known for our structure and discipline, and that's very much a backbone of how we. Of how kids learn and how we learn together in Catholic schools. So, yes, as a parent, as I'm sure many parents are, very excited for school, but also as superintendent, this summer has felt a little bit longer than the last two.
Yeah.
And I think other people have told me that, and I think that means we've been able to relax a little bit more, and we kind of know. For the moment, the landscape as it pertains to the COVID pandemic and the challenges we've had, and
Sure.
but I think everyone, principals, teachers, parents, students, our office, we've learned to kind of adapt, and so we've adapted a little bit this year, of course, in different ways, and so. For good or for bad, we're a little bit more in that cadence, and I do think that we're at a position now where school. When it opens, and I think maybe that's one of the reasons why it's a little bit more exciting. When school opens, it will look and feel a lot like school did at the end of last year, which is a lot like school looked and felt the way we all remember it. Where we were, teachers.
It's so exciting.
Yeah, we were able to do the kinds of things that really make us the thriving communities that we are. So that's a particularly exciting piece about this year.
So it was kind of like a different type of planning for the beginning of the year. Like I've, been in our office in the past years where we have dealt with all the COVID situations, and this year definitely has felt like a different type of preparation. What have the Office of Catholic Schools focused on during this time to prepare for the year?
Well, I can speak, maybe just to kind of get the ball rolling. We think about the kinds of things that we do in different categories. One is kind of Catholic identity and school culture, another is academics and the academic excellence that we have, and the other is just the kind of nitty-gritty nuts and bolts of the day-to-day stuff. And to your point, Marianela, for the last couple of years, that nitty-gritty nuts and bolts stuff has been very tied into health and safety. Now, of course, we're still very aware of that, and we take the steps that we need to, but we've been able this year to sort of get back to more of the Catholic identity pieces and the academic pieces. So we've been helping the principals to prepare for the year. I would say we are about 2 weeks out from what's our kind of unofficial beginning of the school year, which is when we bring all the Catholic school leaders from elementary and high schools together, and we talk about the coming year. I think I know from the Catholic identity standpoint, a couple of the things that we're really excited about for this year are, number one, kind of being able to get back to feeling comfortable doing the kinds of things that we do as community, gathering in the ways that we're used to doing, of course, celebrating Mass together. And in particular, this year, as part of the nationwide Eucharistic revival, we're excited about providing even more opportunities for kids to learn about the Mass, to celebrate Mass, to understand the Eucharist and experience the Eucharist as the real presence of Jesus in our lives. And those are great things to talk about and focus on.
Yeah.
And we're excited about the different ways that, students and teachers and principals are all going to be involved in that.
That's so exciting, Mike. I think, one of the things that I think parents would be really interested in would be, academically speaking, how is it going to change now that we're kind of like going back to pre-COVID type of scenarios? What are the things that Dr. Lockwood is excited about to share with our listeners here?
Well, as I was listening to Bill speak, I kept thinking, it felt like a longer summer, but we had more to do during it in a way, because I'm mindful of when we finished the year. It might have been just before we finished the year. Bill had put together a grid of everything that our summer projects and things we were going to be working on, and it was like 2 pages long, and in very fine print. And I remember thinking, oh yeah, when I put this list together, I was like, oh yeah, we can get through all this with no problem. And then the 10 things that I put on there, I was like, I think I got 2 of those done. But overall, the theme that I think I've been focusing on is back to basics, really, for academic preparation for the kids and for our teachers as well. I think we spent I'm mindful of something Bill said at the K-12 meeting when I first got here a few years ago. He said in front of the group to me, "Thanks for getting on the moving train." And like we were full force into COVID.
Yeah, that's right.
And all the preparations and health and safety and making sure that everybody was safe. And then that ride has changed as we have been on the train. And for this past summer in particular, I'll even go back further a year. It was like, we thought it was going to be a normal year last year. And then it didn't. Right. It turned out not to be at all.
We're praying that doesn't happen again.
And it was like, okay, so we have to pivot again, and we have to refocus on some of those things. And, I think we were very mindful of the stress and the pressures that teachers and families and kids and the administrators are facing. And so it's like, okay, we're not going to ask them to do that this year. And so now that we're in 22-23, upcoming here for the school year, it's like, all right, what are those things that we put off that we really need to get back to and kind of focus on? For example, we have not had common professional development for teachers in at least a few years. And so that's something that we're coming back to. As Bill had mentioned, we're going to focus on Catholic identity, but also their professional growth as educators, and we're going to look at assessment overall and how we're using that in the classroom overall to help the kids and help them grow academically. So it's, I think the best way, as I said, to put it is like, let's refocus on the things that, make us us. One of those being, most importantly, our Catholic formation of kids and of our teachers. But then also from the academic side, how do we help kids thrive ultimately and make them successful?
That's amazing. I think, the other piece would be for our listeners to kind of like understand. Could you speak a little bit about, what you saw in terms of differences between the 2020 academic year and 21 and, what you expect as a difference for next year?
I think I've blocked out most of that year. I don't know about the rest of you, but I very vividly remember where I was at the time I was superintendent in Diocese of Metuchen, and I remember the day that we started closing schools. Mm-hmm. And that's burned into my memory. I don't think I'll ever forget that. We did it a little differently than Camden. I know Camden the bishop had said, we're closing all the schools, and we did it a little differently up north. And so that's all I really remember, to be honest with you, when it comes to what happened at that point. So, but when I was here for 2020-21, I remember looking at lots of documentation as I walked in the door to determine, how are we doing remote learning? What is remote learning going to look like when kids are out, when we're remote? I use these numbers a lot, but we gave a remote option that year for anyone who wanted it. And at one school, for example, we had like 35% of the population was remote at one school. Yeah. And then we could have another school where it was like 1%. There was like only a couple of kids took that option. So that was, that had a lot of variety of what was going on in the schools at that point, and trying to support them with all of those different needs. We really had to focus and be creative on how to best support them. So that's why I said flash forward now to, okay, we don't have to think about, and kind of adjust to those types of things anymore when it comes to the health and safety of the kids. And for example, we had even said, we're going to have to have an abridged version of some of our curriculum documents and guides, because we weren't going to be able to get through everything. Right. And for some of our teachers, I think that was anxiety provoking, because it removed the routine of some of the work that they do in teaching. Sure. And we said, well, all right, we need to focus on the priorities. And so I think that's a major difference for this year, is that we don't have the need anymore for remote learning overall with the kids, and asking teachers to do that and families to do that. And so we're able to, I'm saying this cautiously and carefully, but get back to normal with some of the way we've done things in the past overall.
In the best way we can, right? I mean, yeah.
But it's a learning opportunity as well to know, like, okay, what can we take from those experiences and what we learned from teaching during COVID, and how can we take the best parts of that and use it for this year and moving forward?
And there are little things too in the schools, like that's one of the sort of major thing. But you walk through schools now as they're opening up, and they look like schools about to open in a week. But one of the things you notice is that teachers are setting up their classrooms in the elementary schools very, very similar to the way they looked 2 or 3 years ago. Students, they're setting up for students to work together. Which is and again, our teachers are amazingly creative people, and they found ways for that to happen. But it's a lot easier. We can actually sit near other kids that you're working with. So I think the teachers, that I've spoken with are excited to kind of have their full the full array of pedagogies or approaches available to them again, and because when you're teaching simultaneously with people in the classroom, and that's the thing about remote learning. I mean, there's remote learning. Sure, we can all go home and I'll teach you over a computer. But when some are at home and some are in front of you, I mean, that it severely limits what you can actually do in terms of the activities you can have.
Yeah, you're at the mercy of the situation at home.
And they did a wonderful job. I mean, I think Bobby will be able to tell you. I mean, we look across lots of standardized test scores and different academic indicators, and we really didn't see any dip. From
learning losses
1 year to the next, which through all of this, which really I think says a lot about the creative ways that teachers were able to teach with one hand tied behind their back, and then their face in front of a camera, which is obviously they're very committed to the students, and I think those kinds of labors of love, so to speak, are great indicators of that.
And for that example, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
But I think for that example, we had to adapt as we went along, because it was easy for me at points to say, well, yeah, just turn the camera on and have it face you, and then teach both at the same time. But as I said that, and as I actually went to schools and saw how that was working or not working, we really had to pivot in certain cases and say, okay, that wasn't the way we thought it was going to be, and so let's readjust here and let's try a different approach.
More tech savvy teachers than others, and and situations, and even parents, right? Some parents who knew how to do it,
right? Others
that didn't, And I think it's interesting that you mentioned getting back to certain things, and I think in Marianela and I's world of how we're involved in the schools, we see that too in some of the events and programs that they're allowed to, that the schools are bringing back and wanting to do again, because families want to be back out, and they want to. It's that sense of community that I think is people want again, and it's making it easier. And as I keep saying, for the easiest way to describe my job is cute kids doing cute stuff, and I think that for social media purposes, and even just giving us the platform to say what we do, that's just. Being able to do that again is going to be exciting for this year, I think, and for our teachers, for our principals, for our families to be able to
enjoy that.
Enjoy that and be a part of that again. I think is going to be a lot of fun.
Families that joined our schools at the beginning of the pandemic, are staying with us, I think this year is promising to be, a much better year. So if you liked it, well, all of that was happening. I think this year promises to be a much better experience. So be excited and pray to our Lord that, this still remains the case, because, we don't know, but we are hopeful for the best.
Yeah. And I know that I know the schools are overly excited about getting back to some of those basics. I'm mindful of, I sat on a committee with Bill about some funding, grant money that we had available to schools, and a few of them said, well, now that we're able to work together again, I want to put in a STEM lab, and so I was like, okay, this is exciting. We're back to doing activities that kids can work together that they weren't able to do as much for the past few years. And so I know in particular science teachers are excited to get back into labs and opportunities for kids to work with one another in that capacity.
That's wonderful. Sister Rose, you've been sitting here so patiently. So we want to hear your voice and, you as the Assistant Superintendent of Schools and Government Programs, in your perspective, how do you feel about this year coming up?
Well, first of all, I know we've been talking so far about the getting back to normal after the pandemic, and a lot of times we've been thinking lately about what used to happen before, pre and post pandemic. But I kind of like to look at my experience here in the Diocese of Camden in the Catholic schools as more of a totality. And as I mentioned,
27
this will
years?
be my 27th first day of school, accompanying the principals and teachers in our schools. And I have to say that, when we come to that meeting that we spoke about, the meeting that we had 2 weeks ago with all of our principals, I've experienced that meeting many times as well, and it's kind of like almost an intangible thing in terms of describing it, but there is always the same from my first year till this past year. There's always the same level of seeming excitement, anticipation as the principals are walking into the meeting, as they're getting their coffee. They're happy to see each other, first of all, because they haven't probably for the summer. And they're just very, very genuinely excited and can't wait for to be on that parking lot, next week and be the first one to greet the students that are coming. I mean, once they show up, it's all it's real. You know,
it's real. It's going to happen. Another year.
But I marvel at the dedication of our leaders in our schools, and I have for all of the time that I've been here. There are some principals that we have that are here as long as I am, or almost as long as I am, and we run the gamut from that right up until we have a few new principals each year, and we're happy that we were able to get the principals that we needed for as new for this year. But no matter how long they've been here, whether it's 1 year or 21 years, it's like that sense of starting over again, starting fresh, not just starting fresh after the pandemic, but just it's a whole new year.
Yeah.
It's a whole new year full of opportunities. And there's an article in Star Herald from our Superintendent of Schools who's sitting here at the table with us. And there's a phrase you use for Catholic schools, describing them as, old and new, kind of like...
the 100-year startup?
Do you remember what that phrase was?
100-year-old startups.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and I love that phrase. Can you explain why you use that to describe our schools?
I didn't invent it. It's been used before to describe Catholic schools, and it attempts, I think, to capture the tradition that people love about Catholic schools. And there's something, that sort of works about Catholic schools, many things that work about Catholic schools. But the startup piece is... the context for Catholic schools has changed over the last decade, 27 years, 100 years. So we do new and different things. So, for example, as Bobby said, we're sort of inventing different ways to engage students in the kind of critical thinking, the kind of integration of thinking about content and thinking about our responsibility in the world from a Catholic lens that you would do in a science, technology, engineering, and math or STEM lab, or in one of the schools that created a makerspace, where kids can invent and create their own solutions to problems, right? So it creates a new space to do the kinds of things that Catholic schools are known for, which is to, through a system of kind of order and discipline, create a disciplined mind or nurture a disciplined mind that can solve problems, and that can solve them not as a robot but as a thinking human being and acting morally in the world. So that's exciting to me, right? Where we have this like long tradition of being these places, but we're doing it in new ways. We're not content to just kind of sit and try what we did 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15, which is not to say that some of those things are not equally effective today, and those are the things that we use.
Yep.
But, kids change, and their attitudes change, and the context change, and families change, and we kind of adapt with that a little bit, kind of reinventing new ways to bring the old message, the timeless message, really, the gospel, right? And who we're called to be as Christians to today's world. So that's to me, that's one of the most exciting things about working in Catholic schools in particular and being a part of this ministry.
Yeah, I have to agree. And I think we pointed this out, but I'm especially around this table, the newest person to the team. I've been just a shade under a year. I think I looked in my notebook, and I started roughly around the 13th of September last year. So it'll be a year in just a few weeks. But it is that kind of thinking back to my Catholic school education and looking at it now as my two children enter it for the first time, and seeing all the differences, and even joking with my wife at home about, she would ask me a question about, well, did you do this in Catholic school? And I'm thinking, well, no, it's different now. It's changed, and there's new things, and the kids are we're just we're there to be this same, if not better, than some of the other schools in the area, and we've got innovative ways that we're doing this, and there's all the schools show that. And I think the enthusiasm of our principals has already been mentioned, the teachers, it bears itself out in those examples for sure. So I think, yeah, it's interesting as the marketing communications person who's promoting these types of things, being also a parent who's learning about them at the same time, and a new employee on top of that, to say, okay, how are we doing this? What does this mean? How should we talk about it? And this team has obviously been great in helping me with that. But I think it's interesting taking it from those different lenses and being able to see it in all those different ways.
Definitely.
One of the things about when you see Catholic schools depicted in the media, right? They seem very restrictive, right? Mm-hmm. There's certain stereotypes that I don't think I need to sort of articulate. Everybody can sort of close their eyes and think of having seen a Catholic school in the movies,
there.
Right? Yeah. Or even from lived experience. 50 years ago, and this is what a Catholic school looked like, and or 60 or whatever it is. And in the times was effective that way. But I think one of the things that is actually sort of the irony of those places feeling or looking restrictive is that Catholic schools have been and are now incredibly freeing. Mm-hmm. And I speak specifically about the freedom. I mean, it's fundamentally the freedom of religion and the freedom to express that religion, but it's the freedom to help students to develop into free people who God made them to be, right? Yep. Free to love, really. And I don't want to be too philosophical about it, but that's so important today. Mm-hmm. That's so important that, yes, we have discipline and structure, but those are mechanisms that we use to help students understand who they are, not only to learn academic subjects, not only to learn about religion, but to live it. Mm-hmm. And as I mentioned before, in the case of the science labs, to think, ethically and morally, but not generically, mm-hmm. Really specifically through a Catholic lens and Catholic scripture and tradition, which provides a very clear sense of the reality of who God is and who we're called to be. And as far as I'm concerned, again, I'm a little biased on the superintendent of Catholic schools, right? But as far as I'm concerned, if you don't have the freedom to teach the whole student, then you don't have the freedom to teach. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things, as a parent, and I know that I'm on the same page with the kids in my with the teachers in my kids' school, because we understand that we both have the freedom to teach teach the whole child, so to speak, as we say, and that's a 100-year-old tradition, right? More than that, especially in this area, that hasn't changed, but we find new ways to connect and to do that, and I think that's really important.
One of the things that I think when you talk about educating the whole child, and that's kind of like what we do in Catholic schools, I think about my own experience and how the little Catholic things that we did in my Catholic school experience really shaped a lot of who I am today. Like going to Mass is our most beautiful tradition and celebration, and it's very important for us Catholics. And I remember that I started to be a lector for the Masses, and that was kind of like I loved that experience, and I didn't know I could do that when I was, in 6th grade, and that was so exciting for me, and started to be excited about being in mass or singing in the choir, and starting to play an instrument, and all of these things like we do, kind of like to celebrate who we are and our Catholic identity. But kids who love these experiences can go on and kind of like develop themselves that way. So
yeah, and I think the idea of that freedom too that you mentioned, that freedom to express your religion, I think is more important today than any other time. And I think that is something, again, that our Catholic schools can do, is give the kids a chance to understand it's okay to want to be Catholic, right? And in that sense, and I think about my own kids, and my youngest son is going to be an altar server, and I remember doing that, and that's not only is there the confidence from going to Mass every Sunday and seeing the other kids up there and wanting to be a part of that Mass experience, but also now going to Catholic school and being around other kids that are just as excited about doing those types of things, being a part of the choir, being a lector. That comes from being around like-minded groups and people who are free to express that. And when in other areas that you can't do that, or you don't feel as comfortable to do that, I think. And I think that's a great point on another benefit. And I think the restrictive nature, we joke about the uniforms and things like that.
Thing?
Yeah. Well, I didn't. Yeah, the ruler, or just. But I tell people all the time when I'm talking about pointing out those benefits especially to the schools, the uniform. As an example, we talk about the uniforms a lot, but there's structure and there's accountability and there's things that come up to now at 38 years old myself, I take with how I dress and how I keep myself appropriate. We joke about at home about me making the bed every day. A lot of that comes from my Catholic school upbringing of wanting to be held, accountable for the things that I do in a positive way, not just, in terms of detentions and things like that. There's things that you don't realize until you're an adult that you say that was partially because of what I did at school.
Did you get a lot of detentions in school?
So many detentions. Me and the janitor were such good friends because we were the only 2 people there at the end of the day. Yeah. Well, and that's another thing I think I've told the guys in the office, and I'll just share this quickly. But my wife is very excited for the kids to, as am I, for the kids to go to Catholic school this year, and she had the book, the rule book, open online, the handbook open online. And she's just so excited. She says, guys, look at this. And if you don't do this. And one of my kids came in and just said, Mom, why are you so excited for us to get in trouble? And she's well, not that you're going to get in trouble. You are good kids, but just that there is some structure to your day and that there's cause and an effect to what things happen. And she's just to see that and to know that there's going to be, that sort of structure in the day helps with the other things, right? I always feel for myself, organization breeds creativity for me. So I feel like in our schools, that's very similar. If you're given the ability to have a structured day, then the other stuff becomes easier because you don't have to worry about those other the small things. So
true.
Yeah.
Can you come and talk to my kids about that?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to.
Because listen, I'm a disciple. Believe me, I'm right there with you. But what else do they say? Like the prophet is not believed in his own land.
Yeah, right.
If you came in and talked to my kids about maybe exercising some of that Catholic school organization over the summer,
right? Yes.
That would be
especially when you have 5 of them. That would be cool.
You're just unfortunately outnumbered at some point.
Yeah. That might be the problem.
I was thinking I was going to do like this round table question for all of us to kind of like answer about what is it. There's one thing that you're very excited about for this particular year. What has your head thinking? Wow, if that happens, that would be amazing. Can we start with you, Mike?
Do you want? Yeah. This will be my, quote unquote, first full year of school. I did start after the school year opened, so I did get to experience a lot of things. But I think I'm most excited to see what we've just been talking about, what a quote unquote, potentially regular school year looks like. I really enjoy going to the schools and seeing the kids in action in the classroom, in different activities at Mass, and I have the privilege of being the person with the camera or the phone or, or going with our friends at the Catholic Star Herald to go to these events. So that's what I'm most excited about, is to continue to do that. And I think 1B of that is being able to really promote Catholic schools in South Jersey this year, really get my head around it. I thank the whole team really of giving me some space in that first year. And I think Dr. Watson said to me, there's a lot of schools. It's going to take you some time to understand all of them, and really take this first year to get the lay of the land. And so now I'm in this year 2 where now I'm ready to really put some action into all of these thoughts that are, around my head and in my notebook, as you love to take a look at when we're taking notes. My check boxes and my to-do list. So I think those are the 2 major things I'm really excited for the year.
That's wonderful. What about you, Bill?
I'm going to take 2 also, because since Mike did, he started a precedent. One, and we've already talked about this, but one of the things I'm excited about, and if it really happens, is really being able to kind of roll with the challenges that come up and adapt to them and keep moving. And we've done that for the past 2 years, but it's been a big stress on everybody because everything was new. And we know this year that, we've, over the last, 2.5 years, we've learned that the pandemic can take a turn and catch us unaware. But I think we're better prepared now. People are much more adaptable. I think Bobby spoke before about, the hard work that teachers have done to, do whatever it takes. And last year, yes, it was difficult, but kind of we learned to do whatever it takes and more in stride. And my hope is this year it becomes even more in stride and it feels like we're able to do all the things that we've said we're excited about doing this year. So that you never know how things are going to go, but I think that's something from an operations standpoint to really that all the stuff we've talked about here in terms of being sort of, for lack of a better term, a normal school year. And we know that there are things will happen, but I do think that we're just much better equipped now to kind of roll with it. And that's everybody, students, parents, teachers, principals. So that's number one. Just a little foundation. The second thing is something that is a little bit more abstract, to what's happening, in the classroom. But one of the things we talk about, and that research has shown, is that good Catholic schools almost always, the best Catholic schools almost always have the best Catholic school leaders. Leadership is so important, and finding the right principals is so important. And we've been so blessed to have the right people find us. The Holy Spirit has led people to us and us to them, and it's worked. But I'd like to help the Holy Spirit out a little bit, and plant the seed a little bit more. And so we're finally this year going to be able to do a little bit more of that. We're going to be able to create, or one of our goals is to create a kind of discernment process for people interested in being Catholic school principals, wherever they may come from, whether that is current teachers in Catholic schools or teachers in public schools or people retired from other walks of life or wherever. And then we're going to be able to kind of put a program in place to let people know what opportunities are available and what it maybe tune their ear a little bit to listen if they're being called, and then if they are, to help them kind of develop what they need to develop in order to do the job. So that's very, very exciting, because that's a really important piece of the future of Catholic schools. So I'm very excited about that. And as a corollary, I hope, if I'm being especially hopeful, that we will be able to do something similar for people who'd like to teach in Catholic schools. Yeah. Almost like that might even be as simple as information sessions and job fairs and that kind of thing for people who maybe have questions or make assumptions, then want to have them, want to test them a little bit.
That was going to be actually my next question to you.
Because we're always looking for great people, both as school leaders and teachers.
Yes, we are. And I was going to ask you, there's such a, shortage of teachers, nationwide right now. I think there's a lot of discernment going on in teachers' lives right now. So if you would be able to, tell a person who might be discerning right now, why is it good to teach in a Catholic school? What would you tell them?
I would say the first thing that came to my mind as you're sort of asking that question is the kids need you. I mean, this is all about like we talked about before, the development of our children.
Sure.
And helping our kids understand that they are a precious child of God, no matter how old they are. So are you and me, and they have dignity because of that, and they have a specific purpose in this life, and help them develop the tools to pursue that. And I don't think you have to look too far around to recognize that we need that message for young people so much, like more today than we've ever needed it. And we just keep needing it more and more. And so there's this opportunity, I think, for anybody who's interested to step into a classroom and do that. And and yes, teaching's hard. You teach, especially your first year teaching, if you've never done it, is really hard. But I also think that when your heart is in the right place and you're driven by that mission, the rest of the pieces, there's so much support around you, like with the other teachers in a school, the rest, to kind of to do the rest. And if you come with that, kids sort of believe a witness, right? Pope St. Paul VI said, today's generation listens more to a witness than a teacher. And if they listen to teachers, it's because they're good witnesses. And so that's the first thing. I mean, that's and again, that's a little bit esoteric, a little maybe abstract. But I think for anybody who's interested in teaching at all, whether they have the background or not, just being in a place where you have the freedom to actually teach is just incredibly appealing. So, if that inspires you, be in touch. We're easy to find. Our numbers on the diocesan website, or call a school near you.
Yeah, call to the Office of Catholic Schools. The phone number is 856-583-6103. Lisa Laria will be much willing to take your information. We'll follow up from there. So, and
there's some jobs available as we've mentioned on our website as well for anyone thinking about it right now.
SouthJerseyCatholicSchools.org.
Yes, absolutely. So take a look there, Bobby. I think it's your turn to tell us what you're most looking forward to.
So as Bill was talking, I wrote a couple of notes down, actually.
Look at that.
He said the kids need you, and he was referring to teachers. And the thing that I love best and the most about my work is working with teachers and helping them professionally grow and providing, the term we use is professional development for them as educators. And I enjoy going to schools and working with the teachers, and I like to say I do that on behalf of the kids in a lot of ways. I mean, that's we're trying to ultimately do what's best for the kids and help the kids grow academically, spiritually, and we do that through the teachers. And as I get more opportunities to go and work with more teachers by school, or this year, as I had mentioned before, we're returning to in person, regionally, teacher professional development. That was one of the things I think that they missed the most as I do talk to teachers, is they like being able to gather and work with one another and pray together and just learn from one another. Because in some cases we have, I'll use an example, at a single graded section school, there is one fourth grade teacher. Right. It's not like they have another fourth grade teacher to go and talk to, and so they love those opportunities to gather together. And I remember it might have been I think it was the 2020-21 school year. I actually started running Zoom sessions where I would say anyone who's in a fourth grade teacher wants to come and join on Zoom and talk to one another, then If you're coming here to just vent a little bit about all the anxieties and the challenges that you're facing, that's fine. But when you come and after we vent, let's talk about some things that we're doing to help each other to meet those challenges. And I was surprised that I would receive I usually had about 25 to 30 people per session from around the system. And they were always thankful that we did that. And so, again, for me, it's just those opportunities to help them gather together and grow. Because I think ultimately what that does for them is not only strengthen them as teachers, but also their authenticity in how they work with the kids and how they communicate with the kids. And for those of us who have worked in education, you might have heard this before, but kids spot a fake a mile away. I mean, they know pretty quickly if you're there because you believe in them and you want them to be successful ultimately. And so that's something that I'm looking forward to overall. And as I mentioned before, for the upcoming professional developments, we're talking about just assessment and helping them grow and using data to help them understand what the kids' needs are and to better serve those needs.
That's wonderful. Sister Rose, I think it's now your turn.
Well, we've been doing a lot of talking about about the principals, the leaders, teachers, and I'm kind of excited because of the opportunity that I believe has presented itself here lately in about the past month or so that will be continuing into this year, and that is the opportunity to revisit the whole school choice issue in the state of New Jersey, which would ultimately help students who cannot attend our schools because they cannot afford it to do so. So just want to put in a word for the Educational Choice for Children Act, which is a federal bill which has come up recently in the Congress. It's sponsored by Senator Bill Cassidy and Representative Jackie Walorski. And what we're asking is for all of our constituents, all of our listeners here, all of our parent populations and school communities to contact their congressmen, their people in the United States Senate, and their representatives from the state of New Jersey speak in support of this bill. They need co-sponsors for the bill right now. When Congress comes back next week, they will be looking for co-sponsors from other senators and representatives for this bill. And what the bill is all about is that it's an opportunity scholarship program for students whose parents would like to send them to a Catholic school and who need help with tuition to do so. So it's not a new federal program. It's a program that's going to be funded by individual and corporate philanthropy, donations for scholarships. And it's really the first time in about 10 years now that we've been able to have some excitement around and a seeming groundswell for the whole idea of school choice in terms of this Educational Choice for Children Act. The act is being supported by the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, the Committee on Catholic Education, as well as by the New Jersey Catholic Conference. Marianela, you know that you and I are serving on an ad hoc committee led by Dr. George Corwell of the New Jersey Catholic Conference to sort of flesh out some of this as we go through the fall.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this because this is something that whenever you mentioned this before in the past few years, it felt like, it was a dead end, like you would not be able to even fight for it. But I think this is a new opportunity. We don't know where it's going to take us, but I think at the very least it's going to advance on this work and, make us closer to that goal. And the goal is to make sure that, parents are the ones that are, have the power to decide where they want to send their kids to be taught and to be educated. And so as part of the education that want to provide. Sometimes people don't have the funds to do that, and they don't have the money. And we would love to welcome everybody in our Catholic schools, and we try to do our best with financial aid, but it's not always enough. So we want to have more, and we want to provide the service to everybody who would like to benefit from a Catholic education. So people who may say, I'm not into politics, I don't get involved into any of that. It is really important that you make your voice heard if you want to change in your communities and where you are. So we're thankful to be part of these and excited about, where God would lead us.
Yeah, and we have the action alert, the link that you can then reach out to your member of Congress on our social media page.
We make it easy.
We're making it as easy as possible.
How easy is it?
It takes 5 minutes.
It takes five minutes.
What
it's
do
right at the
people
top
do?
of the page of our social media page. So if you search South Jersey Catholic Schools, right at the top of the page is a fun graphic designed by me. Thank you. Hold for applause. And there's the link to the action alerts right there. Some of it's pre-populated, and you can put your own personal message in there, and then it goes right to your regional respective members of Congress. So really get on it and do it, because it is important.
I do it all the time with these action alerts, and my computer actually has all my information saved. So all I do is I put an M for Marianela, and everything comes down. So
it's
it can
super
be
easy.
as easy as that.
Yeah.
So we don't make you write anything. You don't have to even make a phone call. You can just send that email out and they will get it. So,
and we've learned from our past successes that it really is that there is strength in numbers, and that we really need everybody to do the action alert, to get themselves signed on to the bill and to the support for the bill.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Sister, I want to applaud you, by the way, because having been in New Jersey and working on these types of things before, the voter voice, for example, or some of the numbers that I see come out, Camden always has the highest numbers, and I think that's a tribute to you, whether you believe it or not.
Well, I think it's a tribute to all of us, and to certainly getting it out there and keeping it out there and encouraging our principals to do the same.
But it starts with letting people know about it, and I think I think that comes from you.
And the impact, I think, that it can have, and we've been talking about all the benefits of Catholic school, the stuff we're excited about, and the reality is Catholic schools are not are out of the price range. Not that we make them intentionally expensive, but we do everything we can to keep the cost down. But at some point, we're schools of choice and independent, and
we need to pay our bills.
We need to pay the bills. But what we've been talking about is opening those benefits up to even more kids, so that price is not cost is not a factor, and that's what this effort would really do. And so it's very just, I think, and consistent with our understanding and our Catholic faith that we would support this.
Yeah, this is exciting. So I think it's my turn.
It is your turn.
It is my turn. I think, one of the things that I'm very excited about this year is to be able to support more of our advancement directors on their work, and kind of see the implementation of a lot of the ideas that they had to kind of not implement in the past few years because of our regulations. And now, they're excited about being able to do more stuff. As the enrollment director, a very important piece of enrollment management is, retention strategies and all of those cute little events that you guys see if you're part of a Catholic school, and, providing the best experience ever for those families that are part of our schools. So I think I'm excited about that this year, to just kind of see it happening and provide that support for our advancement directors. It's a great kind of experience for me, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think and as I share the group, our advancement directors who handle the enrollment and among a lot of other things, it is exciting to really work with them as Bobby works with the teachers and Bill works with the principals and everybody. Our team works with the different units. This is going to be exciting, I think, especially for us this year, to really help them make the next step in their messaging.
And also, strategizing of new ways in which we can support our schools in terms of enrollment management. It's always in the back of my mind, how can we make everybody's experience better in terms of we try to facilitate the work that our principals do with their advancement directors. Sometimes not all schools have one, but our role here in the Office of Catholic Schools is to provide the support needed by our principals and staff at the schools so that they can do their jobs better and so that our clients and parents can have a wonderful experience. So that's what we are about.
Yeah, agreed. Well, I think we're about time to wrap up. So I think first we want to say thank you to our guests, for coming in, and we wish you the best on the school year as we hope for all ourselves and our parents and either the staff members at our schools, the teachers, and the principals. We're looking forward to an exciting year. And personally, thank you for allowing me to sort of run the ship with you this time on the podcast and try out a lifelong dream for me. So this was exciting.
We'll refer to you now as the Mike B of the show.
Yeah, that works.
Would that be okay?
Mike B works for me.
Yeah, and let's remind our listeners that there's still time to enroll in our Catholic schools. Remember that we have an open enrollment policy. So that means that you can enroll at any time of the year, depending if there's a space and availability. You talk to the principal first. But we just want to remind you that, if you are already enrolled and you have changed your mind and you want to come and try at Catholic schools, please feel free to do so. We have our website, SouthJerseyCatholicSchools.org, and also the Office of Catholic Schools phone number, 856-583-6103. And you can call us and we can find a school near you that best suits your needs.
Yeah, we'd be excited to do it. So again, thank you everyone, and we wish everyone listening a wonderful rest of your week and a good school year.
Happy school year!